Hey, this is Ken Folan, and welcome to the new show at 4 o'clock here on WILI 1495.3 called Windham Weekly, where I'm one of your hosts, and I'm joined by my co-host, Mark Doyle, who is living in Muppet Land.
Yes, and I'm Mark Doyle, co-host, carrying Ken along the way here as we take off with a brand new show for you.
And I'll do something about that entry music next week. Hey, listen, we're excited to have this opportunity to have what we like to think is going to be a positive spin on everything Windham. And whether it's the school district, which we are pleased to announce that we have the interim superintendent of public schools here for Windham, Mr. Neil Weathers, joining us today as our guest. We will take your calls, 860-456-1400. We're going to talk about the school district today. There's so many topics and that we can hit upon while Mr. Weathers is with us. But we are planning on doing a host of series, not just on education, which is the passion definitely for Mark and I. We did this in the fall for Ernie's show, Ernie Eldridge on the neighborhood show. But we're going to expand it to whether it's a town department, a citizen who's done something for our community, anything that puts the spotlight on positive, because that's what we want. And by the way, while I'm at it, Happy New Year to everyone. Mark, why don't you get going here?
I said, Ken, we were going to announce our guests, but we want to make sure that no other show tries to sneak them from us. So we might want to keep that guest list quiet for now.
Yeah, we'll have to do that. But.
Yeah.
So
but
Neil,
in any case, we're here, and we're here. I have to correct you, Neil. He is the acting superintendent. We don't call him the interim.
You're in the theater?
Yes.
That's our legalese name for him, is the acting superintendent. So, Neil, why don't you tell us how you became the acting, and maybe let the people know what we're doing in the process of replacing Tracy.
Okay. First of all, Happy New Year, everyone. Thank you both for having me on. So as most people know, Dr. Tracy Youngberg left the district to become superintendent of a different district. And in doing so, the Board of Education is currently in search of the next superintendent. So in the interim, I've been asked to be the acting superintendent. And the just so you know, one of the reasons is I'm using the title acting because I actually don't have my 093 certificate to be a superintendent permanently, but pursuant to some laws in the state, I can serve in the role for up to at least a year. So the Board of Education, which I'm completely humbled and honored by, has asked for me to serve in the role for the next several months while they find someone, and I'm so happy because as many people know, the previous 5 years, I've been the assistant superintendent in the district, and prior to that, I was the director of accountability, performance, and assessment. So this is actually my 10th year in Windham, and before that, I worked in Meriden for 15 years, about 9 of them as an administrator. So I'm just really, really fortunate to be here, and I love this district. So it's a great place, and I look forward to having a new superintendent helm the ship, and then going back to being the assistant superintendent. That's the agreement that's in place. Yep. I have currently 2 interim assistant superintendents, and we get to call them interim, and for Albie Harris for teaching and learning, and Beth Brunei for Albie Harris for operations and facilities, and Beth Brunei for teaching and learning. And they are been extremely helpful already in the few weeks we've taken off, and I just look forward to handing off the helm of the ship to the next person in a great place.
So the goal for the board when we came up with this arrangement was we don't want to lose steps with any of the projects we have coming up. Tracy has left us in a good position. I think we're moving forward. Neil worked with Tracy for her when she was the superintendent for 5 years. Neil was the assistant, and before that, Tracy was the assistant before that. So it wasn't like she left us early. She'd already been in the system for just about over 8 years. But having left us in a good position with the various projects, we wanted to make sure they got carried on, which is, as people know, is sometimes difficult with leadership change. So besides, I guess the biggest one we got coming is eventually taking over total ownership of the high school. When is the building committee going to be willing to pull that over?
So, and actually, it's funny, I have something here. So, pretty soon, right now, as everyone knows, in December, actually, one of Tracy's last acts, they had a community event at the high school where they basically gave tours of the new facility. They did presentations to the building committee members and gave a few really nice speeches. That being said, so in essence, the project I would say is like 99 point something percent done. But right now, we still have potential ad hoc meetings on the calendar as we tie up some loose ends, like pay some final invoices, make some final decisions. But those are minor in nature. Going through some of our punch lists of like just items, tweaking things that weren't complete. Yeah, but the new facility is completely operational. If you look out, you see all the beautiful sports fields, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful campus. As a matter of fact, every time we still have a visitor that hasn't been to either the high school or central office or the early childhood center, which is absolutely beautiful as well, which we had a kind of a ribbon cutting for that in September. You just see that everyone is just in awe of how beautiful it is. And most importantly, our students still are very excited to be in the building.
And it's good to know. It's good to know Neil also, because Mark likes to take jabs every. I don't know if you know Mark well enough to realize he likes to take jabs, cheap shots, I call them. But yeah, and I promised him when I got involved with the building committee, it'll be on time and on budget. And I think we've, with the leadership of Mike Callahan, and who I give all the credit in the world to. What a volunteer and what a gem for this community that gentleman is, getting us through to where we are, which is a completed project. It is a beautiful job, and beyond all that, I also wanted to know what and tag on to what Neil said about Albie and Beth. I know them both personally, very professional, and they are committed to the district as I know you are, Neil. And I just want to make sure they get that credit that due, because you and then whoever comes in as the superintendent is left leading a ship that's definitely going in the right direction, and with a heck of a team for support behind you all. I mean, just the commitment from the administrators right down to that custodian in that building. And I've always been proud of the school district, no matter what numbers say, no matter what people sneer at. It's something I'll always cherish, was my time on that board and working with the professionals I had the honor of working with, and I consider you one of them.
Oh, thank you. And just to go along with that, the interim team, one of the things that we've all shared with the board is really our premise is in service to the district. We weren't, as I explained, I'm not seeking out to be the next superintendent, nor me along with the two interim assistant superintendents are looking just to have this transition go smoothly for whoever becomes who applies and goes for the next superintendency.
Where are we, Neil, in the process of it? Has it started at all? Have you advertised yet and so on, or you hired a consultant, or?
So I know that and I don't know.
If you can share that.
Yeah, right. No, we in fact did hire a consultant. We've gone with CABE, which is the Connecticut Associations of Boards of Education, since they had the most experience that we felt in getting local or getting candidates that qualify locally. Because of the various regulations and whatnot, even though it is a nationwide search, we are searching into Connecticut and Rhode Island and whatnot. Massachusetts, Rhode Island. I think from my experience, it's always better to try and get a more local grown candidate, because they understand the Connecticut laws and regulations, and they came in already certified to be a superintendent. As Neil mentioned earlier, there's the infamous 093 certification, which is an administrative certification that they need to get in Connecticut to be officially superintendents. But we have done that. As a matter of fact, I have to leave right after this radio show. I have to go to a meeting. We'll have our first meeting with the CABE personnel, where we'll be fleshing out what it is the board is looking for a superintendent, and to give them direction and guidance so they know how to look for someone, and how to aim the advertisements, if you will, so that we get the type of candidate that we're looking for. So it all starts tonight, basically, in our first meeting with the advisor. We hope to have it wrapped up as soon as possible. We don't want this to drag out too long. But yeah, we definitely want to move forward and carefully. We want to get the right candidate. So
Yeah,
restarted.
it is a process. I've been involved in 4 of them. It is a process, but it's a process worth going through thoroughly, and to make sure, like a puzzle, that new person fits right in and sees the direction of the ship. And 'cause I think, like I said, I think the school district is definitely going in the right direction in that sense. So we've talked about the building project up at the high school, which is again near completion, and the beginning of the search for superintendent. So the big story out there now, Neil, is the potential for the elementary school projects. Can you kind of bring us up to speed on where we are with that?
Yes. So, independent from that project itself, there's a few things happening in terms of the consolidation, which has nothing to do with construction. So, at the end of this school year, Windham Center will be closing, and simultaneously, our 5th grade will be being those students that go into 5th grade will be going to the middle school. So it'll become a 5 to 8 school again.
Essentially, they'll be going back to the middle school because when we built the middle school, as Ken recalls, because I know he was somewhere involved there. As we built the middle school, the 5th grade was scheduled to be at the middle school.
Right. Correct.
And when we have all grades 5 through 8 at the middle school, what we will be able to do then is it will allow us to efficiently operate 3 elementary buildings with all of the remaining K-4 students in it. So we're working on those are some big undertakings. And again, speaking to what Mark spoke of, because I was in the know, thanks to Dr. Youngberg keeping me in the know and always including me in these proceedings, is to make sure those go along as planned, and that will be very helpful. And I think is best for the students and allow us to be able to offer the best things for our students. Now, getting to the construction project, we currently have an ad hoc elementary school consolidation construction committee. Someday I'll learn to say it faster.
You might retire by the time that one's out again.
Yeah. Yes, 3 times fast, not so fast. But basically, that committee is the purpose of that committee is the planning to bring a project forward to eventual referendum for the town. We actually have a meeting next week. We've been meeting regularly for several months now, and we are working. And the idea of that would be one campus that could house all our K-4 students in a brand new facility. This is something that has been in discussion for a long time now, and we actually think that a brand new campus, just like the one the high school had, would really modernize the school system. You'd have a brand new high school. You'd have a brand new elementary school. Right now, Barrows STEM Academy is a decade old. Our oldest building would be in this case, would be the middle school at 30 years, which is like, when you really think of the age of some of the current buildings.
It's hard to believe it's 30 years old.
Right. But even that would be your oldest building versus currently having 2 buildings that are 70 plus years old.
Well, the reasoning for we're looking at consolidation for a number of reasons. The age of the buildings that we have now, in terms of how much money we would need to put into maintenance and maintaining those facilities. But more importantly, it's for the educational benefits.
I was going to ask that because it's not just, this is Windham and it's always budget. And we'll get to that after.
Sure.
It's always budget. Well, if we close all these schools, you could save all this money, consolidate. But in my position in life, I do travel a lot to different school districts, and I see that's happening more and more. So I was wondering if there's an educational theory behind it.
So one of there's several benefits, but one of them is currently, so in several of our elementary schools, as you know, we have dual language programming, and we currently will have one class of a dual language offering classroom in a grade 3 and one unilingual class that teaches primarily in English. Well, if you were to consolidate the schools, what you're going to have is 3 to 5 classes of that grade level in the same program where they can meet as a team and collaborate with others. Right now, they're often by themselves and not able to have a large data team or PLC, we call them, like where they get together and just talk teaching with each other for someone that's doing it. We've worked sometimes to do it district wide, but having someone just weekly, you're meeting with the same building, so you're all practicing the same thing and offering the best things as students. It's not dissimilar to your wife, who's a special education teacher, has her department at the high school where they can talk to each other and pick each other's brains with things that are best for kids. So that's just one small reason, but also too, making sure as budgets get more constrained, that we can make sure we're offering the services to all of our students and equitably, that because this school has, might have 2 interventionists because it has this number of students, and this school that has one, instead of doing that, you're making sure that you have like an equitable system based on the number of students.
Very much common sense.
Right. It'll allow us to take some of our specialists. So I'm sure, as you recall, Ken, at one point we had 4 art teachers out that worked in the grade schools. We had the 4 grade schools.
Art in the cart.
But then we had to reduce those numbers because of budget and those issues, and we got down to 1 art teacher for all 4 grade schools. The benefit of putting everybody into one school is I can now probably, the plan is to bring back more of these specials so we can do a better job with the specials for our kids as well, so they can get their music, their art, their STEM information, maybe even get into more advanced classes.
Right. I offer, in addition to like the more traditional specials offerings, be able to offer, because you have where you're consolidating maybe the number of specialists in a given discipline, it might allow you, while still having some cost savings, to say, oh, we can have a gifted and talented or enrichment class or whatever the title of the teacher is that we currently don't offer now. So there's actually opportunities while still saving money within a space, and just the savings of operating a brand new facility versus repairing things, as you know very well. So just, we think by and large it will be very beneficial for the students.
I think it's beneficial for the entire community because it's tough supporting what was it, 4 of them, current elementary schools, right?
Yes, 4K to 5s.
4K to 5s, varying populations. One school at one time being the Blue Ribbon School, then seeing a shift in the population again, and then there's, mom and dad, of course, who are engaged, they want their kid to get the best opportunity, so they're all trying to shove them into one school and making excuses not to go to that school and this and that. And instead of having that competition, this is a small enough community where we can all rally behind every child in that one school and have them rowing in the same direction as when the middle school kids are, and then the kids go on to the high school, and just row in the same direction for the district. And I like the part, most importantly to me, is the curriculum. You're on chapter 5 over here because the kids are, and then this group is on chapter 1 because they can't get past it for some reason. But if they work collaboratively together as teachers, what are you doing? How do we do it? Let's even change it up. I'm hoping there's that much freedom at the local level as we move forward with that, because this community is just too small, and you don't need it to become divisive. And I think maybe, these fiefdoms in some of these schools in the past didn't help.
Well, what's interesting, sometimes you have perception, and first of all, I'll say this, and I think you both know this anyways, but I love all of our buildings. They're all like incredible. Each school is like its own life force, but to get to your point, what happens sometimes is you have these perceptions of someone's experience that negatively impacts and gets out in the community. So like all of our schools do amazing things. Like Natchog was just a school of distinction this year. By the way, that's only 10% of schools get that distinction and the award they got it for, and that's across the state. Elementary School of the Year. I can go on and name every single elementary school and something incredible they do. Like the community loves the Sweeney Feast. It's one of the biggest events.
I've enjoyed many of those.
All of our schools are great, but one of the negative things that also happens, people will move to a neighborhood thinking their students are going there, and because of those shifting populations you talked about, well, this class has 23, 24 students in it. Well, we're not going to put you in that classroom. We're going to send you over to this school because they have 18.
Right.
And then you get some disgruntledness over that. And also, eventually, sometimes when you have that, could be some impact on transportation costs and things like that. And that's kind of hard to explain, especially when you've just moved with the purpose of, I thought my child's going here. This is why I moved here.
I think you hit the nail right on the head when it comes to the major problem, whether it's the community or the school district. And again, I've always said this, that the public school district here in Windham is the economic driver for this community. And the problem is, and you used the word perception, is just that. You'll get a few parents, and that's back in the day when we didn't have the Facebook, the power of social media. Now it takes one person to make a claim or false statements or not know or understand the whole situation, and the bandwagon effect is unbelievable. And then it's the Wyndham's no good and the school's no good, and this and when you get down to most of it, I know, again, I predated social media in my tenure. And one or two parents would come to a meeting, and you could pretty much answer the questions and get the facts instead of the half truths, or that lack of knowledge of what really happened. Because I don't believe for a second there's one person who works in this district who wants to hurt a child or who wants to hold back a child. I don't believe it for a second. And I've always was the cheerleader for the district in respect to the teachers and the staff, because I see that dedication in more than people than you can imagine. I still run into them all, and I just admire what they do. And I think if people would just stop for a few minutes and take a breath and see what we're trying to offer your child to better that child for down the road, that's what it's all about. And, sometimes I'm not saying ignore numbers or ignore, data, but it comes to the point where did little Johnny start? It's always little Johnny. I hated that kid. No, it's always little Johnny. Where did he start? Where has he progressed to? Where can we get him to next? And then mom and dad have to be right in the mix.
So you said a lot of really important things there. One of the things that I like to focus on is, one, the perception thing we're talking about. Even data-wise, sure, there are numbers in the district we want to improve, but that's every district. But sometimes I laugh, like, for example, our high school and our accountability index, two of the indicators in arts access and access to AP classes, dual enrollment, college classes, the Windham High School exceeds the state. Like, the state average is a percent. Windham High School does better than the state average, and the people don't realize that. Like, they're doing better than the state average. Kudos to them. And there's other things like that where the perception is this isn't happening. Talking about narratives and getting positive stories out, several of our staff and community members have gone, thank God for the high school, because if it wasn't for them, my child can graduate college in 3 years because of the AP courses they took. That's an economic savings that was provided by the opportunities of that. And that takes planning and work of administration and having the qualified staff to offer those courses. So that's one great example. And then just also, just to keep in mind, all of our buildings are doing incredible things. Like our middle school, I think over the last 2 years, and I know we won't get too geeky here, but they went up about 8 points on their accountability index. That's a huge number. The way this index works, 1 or 2 points is a big shift.
Now, these are state indexes.
Yeah, state. This is the state accountability index. That is, it's called the Next Generation Accountability Index. Basically, at the last passing of now ESSA, originally the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, later No Child Left Behind, and ESSA was the next one. This is the most current form of monitoring school progress. We have tons of work to do, but there's tons of positive stories in that, both like from the narrative standpoint or even the numbers standpoint. So like, I love what I try to always do when parents come or they're upset or they share stories with me with displeasure, dissatisfaction, I always just try to listen and realize they want best for their children, but then use it as an opportunity to let them know there are some great positive things going on. But I really appreciate what you just said.
Speaking of which, can you give that phone number again in case somebody wants to call in and talk
If
to young
anyone
Neil?
wants to speak to me, of course.
Yeah, right.
But
yes.
in our guest, Neil Weathers from
But they have a
Windham
choice,
Public
Ken.
Schools. They don't want to hear from Doyle. 860-456-1400 on WILI 1400. We'd love to have you if you have questions. If you're a staff member and you were part of the protest about trying to not go to school today because the Board of Ed made a bad mistake with these Thursday, Fridays. Just a joke, but I did handle it. I quelled it. I quelled the whole issue, about having to go to school. Education has to go on.
Education goes. It has to.
But if Mark Doyle had his way, he would have the teachers go to school on Christmas Eve until noon. But
that makes sense to me.
Yeah, it makes sense to you. 456-1400. We would love to get some calls, get your feedback on this.
And let's just say if Christmas is a Monday, you're not getting Friday off either. Okay, just so you know, if Christmas is a Monday, you're not getting Friday off.
To my friends who are in the education field here at the high school, remember in November, because I am sure this calendar was a mistake. But that's okay. We got one more day this week.
We do.
Then we got Three Kings coming up. Three Kings holiday coming up for the children on Monday.
That's absolutely.
And that's a good thing.
And then when is the Three Kings celebration at the school, Neil?
Oh yeah.
Oh, and one of the things on my list to bring up is actually January 11th, because we always do it after Three Kings. So January 11th, which is a week from Saturday, it will be held back at the high school. For a while, we had it at the community center while we were going through the renovation, but they've decided to do it back at the high school. The Three Kings celebration will be taking place January 11th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. If you've never gone, it is a fantastic event. Our family liaisons and many countless others work to put on such a great show.
Will we have an appearance of the Kings?
There is always an appearance of the Three Kings, photo opportunities for children, which is fantastic. It's a wonderful time, and then there are presents for children, and they do a great job of organizing it by age group, so everyone gets a present that is relatable to their age. Great time. There's wonderful food. There's usually, or not usually, every time I've gone, there is music and dancing, and just it's super enjoyable. It's one of my favorite things that I've gotten to appreciate.
Just general frivolity all around.
Yes.
Now, do parents need to pre-register, or do they just walk in?
So parents, we do ask that they pre-register. They can contact their schools. The family liaisons help with that, and the school offices help with that to make sure that students are pre-registered, so that we make sure that we have enough gifts for all of the students.
Excellent.
Thank
And
you.
then now we have a little pause here. I think it's time to celebrate the success of our building committee. I understand you have something with you, Neil?
Yes. So I know you were unable to make the community event when we honored all the building committee members. So I can officially hand you this recognition on behalf of, well, I guess the district, in appreciation for your service on the Windham High School Renovate its New Building Committee. Here you go, Ken Folan.
Wow.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And to be honest, like what we said at the community event is true. All the people that work on those committees, they're volunteering their time. I know you gave props to Mike Callahan, who was actually honored by the mayor as Citizen of the Year at the
Excellent,
event,
yeah.
and rightly so, I believe. But the amount of hours it took, I've been in some of those, as you know, I've sat in meetings with
Many
you.
meetings with you, yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of stuff gets covered, and there's a lot of detail and a lot of things that need to be decided that get to the point of having the high school, and it's really hard unless you've seen it in action to quantify how much time and energy goes in, and
Now,
so the commitment of the public is
I
appreciated.
watched a lot of those meetings, Neil. Do I get an award at all?
Not for viewership of meetings, only if you were on the actual committee, you received one. And then we're and there's actually a couple more we're going to make sure to get to the people. Many of the committee members are able to come, but when we are finding out, fortunate, when we were trying to figure out, we thought, oh, I can bring this to Kelly because I know where she works.
Yeah.
And then it just happened. Mark asked previously, invited me to appear on the show. I thought, what a great opportunity
Yeah.
to recognize you.
That was very thoughtful, and I do thank the district. It's the recognition is always nice, not necessary. I like I said, and I know Mark and I don't know what it is, a kinship of the passion for this district, and it can't be all stemming from the years on the Board of Ed together, but
No.
in our coffee hours, because we solve a lot of problems in the world over coffee. But I hope in the end, and my wish is that every student now and in the future enjoys that building, and embraces it and motivates them to again be respectful to the building, and to their teachers, and to learn and just prove everyone wrong who has that misperception of the community. And I think, for Windham Weekly, our goal here is to bring interesting guests on. We're going to be tapping the school district for kids when they're honored. Other
Oh, silence your phones, please.
other members of the community. There's some people who are, quite frankly, who are much older. I haven't talked to Mark about this, but there's I'd like to have a show with some of the elder women of this community who have been involved for 40, 50, 60 years to talk about their positive upbringings. They were born and raised here.
Older than us, Ken?
Older than you, I don't know. That's old, but and I just want this show to be something that we haven't had, in the past, which is 100% positive, And we're not going to get into politics on this show. I think education goes far beyond that, and there's enough of it in this world. And I think if the teachers want to come on and go through you, that's fine. However, this is going to work. I have scheduled a mortgage broker who was born and raised here in Windham, a young kid, a local realtor who's a young kid. Both went to Windham High School and on to Eastern, whatever. And I want them to speak about the housing market, where we are at prices, so people get a whole different feel of this community. And you couldn't get two more positive people on this show about Windham. Now, they're in sales in a sense, but it doesn't happen unless they're qualified. Mark has invited the town rec director next week.
Right, she'll be with us next week.
To
discuss
go over the new
right.
the new
We have that
building,
new
program.
community, new rec center. We want to come down and have her talk about the new programming, and she's actually working closely, I think, with the schools, and they're getting the kids involved. So
it's just crucial that we hear the positive. I'm not saying put your blinders on if there's a problem,
Of course.
but it's not going to be our focus. That's for sure. I can't wait because as spring comes, right? We'll get to the budget in a minute. But as spring comes, that's when the awards start going out to the students. Well, I want to know what you did to earn that award and what does it mean to you? And I know that ties up an administrator or a teacher or something because the students can't come on alone. We've been through that last fall. We learned that, and but it's time for younger people to step up. I do want to have the older people on to tell us where our foundation was, where our history was, but that high school is going to be the source of a lot of shows because they need to step up. Mark and I can tell you just about every politician in town are old and tired, and as much fun as this building committee was, and because I learned that everything I volunteered for in this community was an education, and this project was unbelievable for me as an education, but we can't keep doing this. We need to find some young kids, and so we're hoping, that we can rely on you, Neil, in your role to, hey, I got a great kid who's done this, and it doesn't have to be some major award. Maybe this kid helped a group of other kids who, and became a leader. Stop the bullying incident. Who knows? But, because I can't leave with the Doyle. I can't carry the man
Mr. Doyle.
the rest of my life. So Neil, let's get into something interesting. That's the budget. I mean, you got to face this chin music alone.
Yes.
What direction? I know it's early, but I know you've also probably had meetings on it already. So let the community have an update.
So we're in development. We haven't met yet with our Board of Ed yet or presented anything like that, but we're in development. And really the two driving forces, and this is something that Dr. Youngberg included me. And when you said face the chimney, it's like I actually will have a team as well putting this together. And we staff has actively collaborated with when trying to build this budget. And it's really around two things: being fiscally responsible, which is always important, and also giving students what they need. So if you're asking for something, at least you could justify this is what students need to be successful, and this is why we're advocating for it. And we do that in the most thoughtful way. One of our decisions, regardless of what our budget ask is, that was one of the reasons we decided ultimately to go with closing Windham Center, because operating an additional elementary school when you could house it in 3, we are making fiscally responsible choices while also making sure that we have the support staff, the interventionists, the special education teachers that students need to succeed and graduate and go on, and actually, like you were alluding to, be the next generation of the next Ken and Mark radio shows are the advocates and the leaders that this community deserves.
So, where are you as far as you gonna need additional? Are you looking for additional staffing, or how are you crafting your budget?
So what we're doing is it's always complex. So in some places based on student need, we might add something, or if we might reduce something, like if enrollment drops, we might reduce a classroom. So what we're really trying to look at is what it would mean to maintain the staff we have roughly, knowing that there could be some exceptions here, like an increase here or a decrease here. But we're still fleshing that out, so I don't want to give any concretes.
No, of course not.
So next week, if we decide something, then next week I don't want to be called a liar on your show. But roughly, we're trying to move forward with the staff we have to provide the services that we need for our students.
Have you ever, and I don't recall us mocking our time doing this, but reviewed all the programs that are in there? A lot of times you get grants and you get that seed money, and then you try to fund it down the road. But have you, with local dollars, and it just never pans out, it seems. But have you ever found a good program that's really, really working, and then you look and you're scanning through and say, geez, we're not helping as many, we're not getting the bank out of these other programs, and actually finally, take a knife and cut it and say, hey, we can use that money to shore up a program that's working well?
So we do always analyze the cost, the performance effectiveness, but we always are cost analyzing programs across the district. I would say that happens every year.
Okay.
Actually, the reverse of that, like as you know, with Compañeros and Dos Rios, our dual language program, being the right decision and the best thing for our students to learn 2 languages, which is fascinating and so incredible that our community can have this, is actually fiscally responsible. A lot of people don't realize, because if you didn't have the dual language program, you still are required to offer services, and then you're not getting in a pair teaching model or a teacher teaching in both languages. You're then getting in other services. So there is some definite fiscal responsibility to something like that has been a proven successful program. So but to answer your actual question, we do analyze everything all the time. Yeah, and sometimes we've had to stop programs because it was on a grant and we knew going in, or we've had positions where this will be a 2 to 3 year position based on the grant, because that's what we know we can cover that.
Right, that's one of the challenges of the ESSER funds that we got. We got quite a bit of ESSER funds, and we had to be careful that we knew when those funds ran out, we couldn't duplicate everything that we had started. So
and that will be an X factor. So last year was the last full year of it. We had a little bit of the money this year till September 30th that we used for certain things. I feel our district was strategic and did really well. Actually, Dr. Youngberg got invited to go to a superintendent's conference in Maryland and was highlighted for the things we were doing with our budget. And we know that, unfortunately, and in no way a judgment, some of our other communities in the state have been struggling with the switch over to ESSER. And we might have some struggles in this budget when we come to present as we project out, but we've been doing our best to be reasonable with it, where we knew that we didn't put it all in just staff, knowing that as the money ran out.
Right. One of the points of interest that the board raised, and that as chairman of the finance committee that I was strong with, is that we use as much of this money as possible for concrete items, textbooks, whiteboards, things that were a one-time expense that we could use that we don't have in our regular budget, so that we weren't facing, as Neil pointed out, hiring 10 extra staff people that were just got to lay off in a year or 2 years.
Yeah, but in that hiring, that's what I was kind of getting at on the ESSA funds is, did you find one position like in your mind and say, geez, this would be a great one to keep. How can we afford it? What can we cut to afford that one position or one program? That's what I'm getting at. There had to be some success, I would think. I mean, I know like the pay for teachers for summer school will
Sure.
never happen again like that.
Right.
Okay. But I bragged about that decision to spend that extra money on getting those kids in there and the teachers in there and having actual classes and so on. I thought that was well worth the money spent.
Right. So the summer school, that is a case of where if we had that money, that was a great expenditure because we were able to offer a full day summer
Correct,
school
yeah.
experience, unlimited. It wasn't based on student performance. Anyone was welcome. That was a really, I thought, a good use of funds, knowing that we couldn't do it forever. But even just some other things that we discovered during the time, like, and just we have a couple of the schools, or actually all the buildings have like building subs, people that are just there on site. We found that to be really effective and actually a cost savings. And instead of pulling teachers all over the building to cover and do this or that, they were there and we had sub coverage, and then we weren't worrying about other things. So that was one effective thing that we learned during that we weren't really doing as much prior to the spending of ESSER.
What would you offer to the new superintendent? I mean, you don't have no clue who this person would be, but what would you, and it's not second guessing what that person will or will not do, because I know it's a team effort up there. Granted you have your captain, you have your superintendent, but it is a team effort, and I don't think I've ever met anyone so far over my years who the boss doesn't listen. What do you think some of the needs may be that you would suggest that there be a little bit more drilled down focus on?
What I would say to the new person, aside from that, they just got inherited a great assistant superintendent.
Well, of course. I mean, teachers are very disappointed you're not taking the spot.
Not to mention that dynamic board of education.
Yes, you can't forget them.
What a bunch of mushrooms. Anyway.
So anyways, though, what I would say is what's really important, I think the most important quality or focus for that new superintendent is to realize that the district is moving in a good direction, and talking about perception, talking about narrative. And right now, there is several very big pieces of work. One of them is the elementary consolidation construction. The fact that Windham Center is closing and that we are moving our fifth graders, and to make that successful, because we know there's some history there why fifth graders originally left. So making all of that be successful, I think has to be the priority of that superintendent, and show the district there's still stability and we're moving forward. And it's not like a brand new person where we're going backwards. Because I think one of the things that the district, at least my perception, is that our staff and families feel that a sense of stability has been established across the school district, and I want to keep that moving forward. And that's actually what my goal is during these few months as the acting superintendent is. So when we're handing it off, that they're continuing, here's what the Board of Education has decided is the most important priorities, and let's make sure we do that. And that's what I would say to them. And the other most important thing I would say is they inherited an awesome school district. I just can't say that enough. I know I've said this to the board. I love Windham. I worked in Meriden for 15 years. I really never thought I'd love a place more than that. And then now here I am in a decade in. I could say that's, I still love Meriden very much, but I love Windham and everything about it. It's an incredible town. It's an incredible school system to work for, and I'm just privileged and honored to be part of it.
Neil, you hit on a lot of important points. One being stability. I believe in that in my own corporate world. When they stop going in and out like wax figures, It's not good for staff. But you missed one point. The biggest advice you can give the new superintendent is to come on the Windham Weekly show with Mark and I, exclusive.
Exclusive.
So, in other words, turn down any other offer and engagement until they've been on our show.
I think we may have to put a 30-day no compete clause in our
Doyle,
our parents'
when
contracts.
you do the hiring down there, you may kind of make that happen. That person comes on this show exclusively. They can go on to the other shows later.
Much later.
We wouldn't be harmful to anybody, but we want the exclusivity, and we'll get an expansion of the show. It'll be a 2-hour show then, because
Well, once the overnight ratings are in, Ken, I'm sure people will be
the
clamoring to get on our show.
ratings are through the roof.
So mine were points 2 and 3 then. I missed point 1. Is that what you're saying?
That's right.
That's okay, Neil. We'll have you on again because you'll probably be the guy bringing some students along. And I mean, dig deep. If there's some good kids out there,
Oh, we have plenty of those.
I know you do. I really do. And staff members, let's recognize them.
Sure.
Members of the community kind of didn't like this when I was on the board. I would say it all the time, about pay. How teachers could go to another district and get a nice bump. And my advice to every superintendent I work with was make the workplace environment as best as possible. Forget the union baloney and all this other back and forth. But the reality of it is it's that workplace environment, and they'll stay. And I think that's why you have longevity in a lot of the staff members there. Because of that.
We have a huge contingent of staff members that just love being part of Windham. Like, to work here is to love it. I don't know how else to say it. Like, it's just an awesome place to be.
I think we got about 2 minutes left, Ken, so just to give Neil a chance to speak since you've been going on so well.
Oh, boy.
If Neil had anything to say for the last 2 minutes, Neil?
Actually, one thing I did want to just say for anyone listening, and I'll do communication out to families, but starting on January 7th, we will be opening our lotteries that's both our Barrow STEM Academy, and that also is our Companeros Dual Language program I mentioned. So those lotteries will be opening on January 7th. And then on January 16th, more details and location to come, but we'll be having a kindergarten choice night for our families and speaking to them about some of the opportunities in the district. But I will be sending out communication.
Well, Neil, I want to thank you for your time today. It's a pleasure. It's always great to have a member of the team here and the official leader of the team today from Windham Public Schools, Neil Weathers. I thank Mark for joining me as our co-host of Windham Weekly. Again, we'll be here every Thursday at 4 p.m. on 1400 AM and 95.3 FM.
I too want to thank Neil for responding to my invitation to come on my show. So it's certainly nice to hear from him. And we'll be back next week. Well, actually, no, Ken, you won't be back next week.
I will be off next week. I unfortunately have another engagement.
Already taking time off.
Well, I'm a regional celebrity.
He must be in management.
Yes. 10 seconds. Hey, so I hope this show was enlightening. I hope you enjoyed the content because it's what we plan to do. We really want your input, so I'll give you Mark's home number next time, and you can call him with any issues or complaints, and we can change format at any time. If you are a listener and you think you have a great story to be told, a positive one about Windham, join us. We'll have you on the show anytime. Again, we're going to be a call-in show, 456-1400.